What's up, friends? Reformed Stoic back again with another video. First video of the new year. Happy New Year's, everybody. 2024. So, let's get right into it. NPCs win at life. Why? Well, first of all, part of the reason I wanted to get into this is because it explains a lot. It explains a lot of the blue-pilled cope that comes from normies themselves when they're trying to, I guess, to maybe exaggerate it a little bit, like when they're gaslighting you. Maybe they're gaslighting you, is what I'm trying to say. Or maybe they're just kind of coming up with an excuse for why you're struggling with life. So what I was trying to say is, like, at worst, they're gaslighting you. At best, they're trying to come up with a cope for why you or others like you, us, have struggled at life. This comes up a lot with the modern dating question and things about the black pill. And like, oh, you know, women don't go for Chad. Women go for guys who are, you know, talented, funny, blah, 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 blah. NPCs, basically, is what it is. Like, what I've always said is that women like normal. NPC is normal. So what's an NPC? You listen to socially acceptable music, you watch popular television, you agree with what the news says, you believe in what you learn at school, and you just don't go against the grain. Okay? And when you don't go against the grain, you have a pretty smooth path. Things are pretty smooth. You find a lot of people that you have things in common with, and you don't tend to get into as many arguments unless you're coming up. Like, what's the opposite of an NPC? What do you call somebody who's not an NPC? Unless you come up a Spurg burger in paradise, you know, when you come across the Spurgs, when you come across the people like us, I don't know, when you come across the dissidents in life, that's kind of what the arguments are reserved for, the kind of people that you bash on Reddit and whatnot. So, what it comes down to, guys, when people are like, oh, you know, take a shower, be yourself, yada yada, to do good with women, if you're decently well-adjusted and, you know, big, tall, strong, attractive, you're a Chad. And if you're average looks, average height, average things, not muscular, but you're a normie, you know, an NPC, then you're basically a soy boy. Then you're basically the soy boy stereotype, you know, the Funko Pops and Star Wars and consume the new product. You know, then you're, I mean, that's like a form of being well-adjusted, you know? There's lots of girls who like the Marvel movies that come out, you know? There's a lot of women who have kind of accepted these guys who, you know, they were probably, like, more nerdy in high school, and then they learn how to, like, you know, they kind of, like, grow up in an adjusted way. They start wearing button-up shirts. They wear something a little bit nicer than, like, a greasy Star Wars shirt that's too big. And they go into STEM, and they go into whatever at college. They pick a good field in college, and they do good, and they get good grades, and they work towards some sort of a tech career, maybe. And then, you know, they like their Funko Pops, and their video games, and their IPA beer, and then, you know, they, like, drink a little bit, but they're not alcoholics, and they're just kind of, like, well-adjusted. And I'm not trying to, like, put those people down, but if you're not familiar with the Soy Boy meme, that's basically what it is. And they're not really, like, a physical threat. Now, I will say that height is an issue, and I've decided, you know, me personally, what I've observed, how I see things, I think 5'10" is the manlet cutoff. 5'9", king of manlets. 5'8", prince of manlets. A lot of good dudes who are 5'8". Me, Floyd Mayweather, Joe Rogan, Christian Slater That's one of them. Kanye West. But anyway, I digress. I feel like a good soy boy height is like 5'11", 5'10". You know, I mean, look, the last thing I want to do is try to make guys feel self-conscious about their height. I'm a short guy, but height is just kind of an issue, and I feel like if you have like the soy boy personality and you're 5'7" or lower, or 5'8" or lower, 5'9", under 5'10", 5'10" being the manlet cutoff, you're probably gonna have a hard time in 2023. Now, there's actually lots of guys that height who have done all right, but you know, regardless of your height, being well adjusted, being an NPC is a factor for success. So I feel like that puts the question to bed of like, do women only go for Chad? You can be a relationship lane guy with average height, average looks, not especially good looking. They say that a lot of the soy boys are balding, maybe a little bit. If anything, you just have like a less than perfect hairline. But again, I think in 2023, 2024, I really think, you know, in 2023 for sure, balding and height was an issue. I think it's also going to be an issue in 2024. So those are things that could, regardless of how well adjusted you are, give you hard times. But chances are, if you have that well adjustedness going for you, that neurotypical way of being, you're not going to brush up things, man. The chuds are swimming upstream, okay? We're swimming upstream. And I think what it comes from is either autism, but there's all kinds of speculation on what autism is. Personally, I have some people in my family who have autism. There's one cousin in particular. I've heard it said before that it's Asperger's, but then another time it was referred to as autism. I've met a few people who are diagnosed autism, because like, in my mind, there's like two kinds of autists, and probably what it comes down to is high functioning versus just regular autism. I've observed some people who have like regular autism. There was this Asian guy who was friends with my friend in middle school, and we'd be in a room having a conversation, and he would just kind of like stand up in the middle of the conversation and like walk into another room and like pace around and be like, oh man, what's up with that guy? It's like, he has autism. My cousin would kind of do the same thing. So there's like that kind of autism, which I don't even really know all the details of it. It seems to just cover like a wide array of different things that amount to being not neurotypical. There was some special about it on the Lifetime channel where like a kid like screamed because somebody touched his ear or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be offensive. But then there's high functioning autism. From what I can tell, basically just means you're weird. I almost feel like they have to slap a diagnosis on you just because that's kind of how things are these days. But yeah, high functioning autism, that's the one that I really question. That's what I feel like people on 4chan are kind of referring to when they say everybody's a spurg and everybody's an autist these days. You're just kind of different. You're out there. You're against the grain. And I think, so I was saying, first of all, it's if you have autism, which is kind of a question mark, especially in terms of high functioning. And then the other hand, I think it's trauma, abuse, not necessarily like devastating trauma or devastating abuse. I mean, no trauma and abuse is positive, but maybe you hear trauma and like, you know, you think like somebody beating the shit out of you or rape, or you think abuse and you think somebody beating the shit out of you or rape, not trying to, let's just move on. Let's just keep going. Not trying to be funny, just trying to make a point. Trauma and abuse, you know, while always serious but never a good thing, it might just be like, you know, you had narcissist parents or you got bullied growing up or you were neglected a little bit. There's levels to trauma and abuse is the point. I'm sorry if I was a little bit not classy in covering that. But the point should be made. There's levels to trauma and abuse. So maybe like you weren't chained to a radiator or anything, but again, not trying to be funny. Okay, maybe I was. I'm sorry. Let's move on. you dealt with abuse and trauma, even though it wasn't terrible. I'm sorry if you dealt with something terrible. Then it's probably even worse, okay? Trauma and abuse will kind of push you off of the normie NPC path. I feel like I fall into that category. Do I have high functioning autism? You know, I went to therapists a number of times, and that's not really what they said. First one said social anxiety, then another one said depression, and then there was this bitch that said I had bipolar type 2, and that I'm writing that one off, because ultimately I had to go to court, and they decided that I didn't have that, and the court said that I had an adjustment disorder. Well, you know what? It has been very difficult to adjust to life growing up here in Kodiak, Alaska. It has been very difficult to adjust to the world, you know, post 2010, really post 2007. It has been difficult to adjust to this world. But at this point, I would say that I'm adjusted enough. There's people who are trying to claim that I'm not. But it was a wake-up call. I had a number of wake-up calls. You know, even though I was struggling, like, really as far back as you go, but, you know, I started to, like, run into a couple of problems with the system. Well, I'm still running into problems with the system, but that's a different story. I ran into some problems with the way that I handled things, and what it is, guys, my advice is, like, no matter how difficult things are, like, yeah, it's rough with women, it's rough with people, normies everywhere, school system, work, the government, it kind of seems like they want the average working class, like, rocky underdog guy to fail at best and die at worst. I get it. I'm right there in that same boat with you, but I recommend you hold it down. Don't be, like, you know, making threats to people or yelling or saying crazy shit. Not saying that that's necessarily what I did. My story's complex. Maybe someday I'll just straight up make a video about it, because all I've ever done is really talk about it in various different streams that some people caught. But maybe someday I'll make a video about that. Maybe I'll come clean with all my experiences and videos. As the channel grows, we've been doing good lately. But the point is, guys, life can really suck for people, and I'd recommend that you just don't lash out, because it's really only going to make it worse. And probably where a lot of your disgust for normies comes from is that you had very real problems and struggles in life, and you lashed out about it somehow. Maybe not even a big deal. Maybe like you just posted some kind of like sad statuses on Facebook looking for attention, which women do all the time, and everyone's like, girl, I'm here for you, girl, I'm coming over right now, and don't be like that. And then like the guys, the simps, you deserve better than that, babe, like, I hate the way he treats you, and like, there's like absolutely nothing wrong with you feeling that way. Or, you know, that sounds kind of like a chat, or it's like, you're so beautiful, like, you should never be sad, you'd never be sad if you were with me. And she's like, tee-hee, blocked. Point is, that was kind of my experience, okay? I struggled in life, and at first I started to kind of gently, you know, like vague, sad post on Facebook, and I was kind of disgusted with people's reactions. Like, it seemed like people would hold that against me and try to make me feel bad about it, and it was at that moment that I began to hate them. Let's keep it on track. Hopefully you don't know who I was quoting there. I wasn't quoting anybody. It's just a coincidence. I never read that book. Okay. Okay, where are we at here, guys? First video of the year. One of my resolutions is for my videos to not be quite as long. We're at the 15-minute mark. We can probably start wrapping it up here. So, them, normies, NPCs. It's a straight shot, you know? It's like, you're the salmon swimming upstream. Okay, you're up against a lot of tension because you go against the grain. You might go against the system, the things that you believe, go against the common consensus. Which, by the way, people will be like, yeah, because the NPC would say to that, you're a conspiracy theorist, nothing that you say is founded, you're pulling it out of your butt. oh yeah, and what peer-reviewed academic studies back that up? And then, you know, what I would say is like, well, the peer reviews are actually done by the government or people who are funded by the government, and a lot of scientific research is funded by the government. And well, I would probably be appealing to philosophy, like, you know, ancient philosophers, Aristotle, who said that democracy was ultimately a bad thing. It was like, you know, at best you have a republic, and then at worst you have a democracy in that category. Or Heraclitus, who said that the masses were the watchers of the games. Like, you know, people who hang out in the stadiums during gladiator events, and they were always to be misled by the elite. Philosophers tend to overwhelmingly agree, especially the further you go back, that the masses are always, like, stupid. So even though I'm always changing and I've been developing and I have, I think, a few different opinions, like a few things that I need to kind of re-evaluate and reassess and make some new videos, kind of like catching people up on where I'm at on certain things today. But overall, I'm still out here going against the grain. And it's the way to be. You know, reality really is like the Matrix, where there's like all of the plebs, and then, you know, there's the real ones who see what's going on, and you swim against the stream. But basically, when you swim against the stream, life's gonna be harder. If you're a chud, like if you're not good looking, then, you know, then you're not well adjusted and you're not good looking. But if you're average looking or just like a little bit weird looking, you're still gonna have problems. But if you're super well adjusted, or basically an NPC or a normie, well, then you're conforming, and then there's a really good chance that you're going to meet a woman who you click with because you like the same shows on Netflix and you listen to the same music and you have the same opinions on politics, which really amounts to just like sipping an IPA at the bar where you're like, I can't believe incels, like, they never even take a shower and work out. I'm 140 pounds and I can almost bench press my body weight. I mean, just work out. That's why I have a girlfriend. Because I can bench press 140 pounds. And that's pretty much it, you know? They're swimming with all the fish. You're swimming upstream. And well-adjusted people kind of just like, you know, not being autistic. We've been over that. Whether it's high-functioning or regular autism or Asperger's. They didn't suffer trauma, severe or less severe, which probably didn't need to be elaborated on, but hopefully you get what I meant there. And they had a decent upbringing, and they kind of just coast through life, man. You know, they got their friends in school, they do their sports, or they do their extracurricular activities, they get their grades, they don't get into trouble or go to jail or a mental hospital. They get into a college. I mean, maybe average everything. You know, they go to a public school, average grades, average looks, average amount of female attention. Maybe they never had a girlfriend in high school. Then they go to an average university, and then they get average grades there, and then they get an average job and an average girl. Or maybe not. Maybe they realize that they're really smart, and then they go to a good school. I mean, just well-adjusted, you know? They just live a life. And my advice to you watching this, if you're a chud burger, is that life's overrated, man. We are so deep, swimming upstream. Some of y'all about to get up that waterfall, man. Some of you have been trying to get up this waterfall, and you're about to get up that waterfall and see what's on the other side, man. And I mean, whatever it is, guys, on some level, and this is dangerous to say in 2024, you were like a radical. You're kind of radical. You're rad. You're rad, bro, not radical. Nobody's radical here. This isn't a channel for radicals or anything. But you just do things a little bit different, man. And you've probably spent a lot of time thinking, it sucks. I didn't get as many women. I don't have as many friends. I've taken some serious beatings to my reputation. I've spent a lot of time alone. I was an outcast. It's gotten to a point where, you know, I'm looking at people on social media and they're going to freaking Dave and Buster's every weekend and drinking IPAs and talking about Marvel movies, and I'm not. But you know what, man? Someday, I believe that a lot of us are going to realize why we lived this life. Maybe this year, maybe soon, maybe some of you already realize it. But a lot of times the people I'm trying to talk to are the people who are just like brand new on this journey, man. And you're just thinking, okay, so I've been an outcast my entire life, and I'm lonely, and I don't know why, and it sucks. And my main advice is always like, do not blame yourself. You gotta love yourself, man. And I know that's normie stuff, but like, why are you the way you are, man? Like, snap out of it. Figure it out. There's a reason that you are the way you are. There's a reason that you have the opinions you have. I mean, reevaluate your worldview, man. Do you know what you're talking about? Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe you should just listen to the teachers. Maybe you should just listen to the news. What's wrong with CNN? What's wrong with Fox News? What's wrong with 60 Minutes? Like, you know, why are they wrong? Why do you know? Like, why do you know better? Just challenge yourself, man. Figure it out. Read more books. Like, I went through a serious period of introspection when I was all alone in Vegas and I lost my friends. And I'm to a point where, like, I think I'm a pretty cool dude, man. Like, I do think I'm about something. I can stand behind what I'm about. I will say, though, I'm dialing it back a little bit. Like, I'm refining it. Where it's like, okay, you don't cast your pearls before swine. I'm really taking that more seriously. Where I see a lot of opinions that I don't agree with. Like, I see people being cocky on Facebook. I see the kind of people who I used to think were my fodder, you know, just like rednecks being like, you know, there used to be more bars here than there was churches, and it's these damn criminal churches. I'm just like, dude, 5 years ago, it'd be like, you're an idiot. I'd be like right up in there smearing this guy, but just let it go, man. The kind of guy who thinks it's a positive thing that there's more the kind of guy that looks back on the good old days when there was more bars than churches, it's just let it go. Just let it go, bro. When you see somebody on Facebook and you want to jump in, and even if it's really annoying, like you feel like they're right in your ear, like, yeah, that's progress, and I'm so glad seeing these white men get weeded out of society, and like, you know, and you want to jump in, but just let it go, bro. Because not being able to let it go is how I lost all my friends. And I probably would have realized, like, what would have happened if I never spurred out and lost all my friends? I probably would have just been like, they're like, hey man, you want to come to Dave & Buster's and drink IPAs? And talk about how I can almost bench press my body weight at 140? Like, you know, dude, I think I'm actually going to hang back and read and do something else. And then, you know what? They probably would have just talked shit about me anyway at Dave & Buster's, bro. Because I was set apart. And what happens, guys, is like, it reminds me of when I played Star Wars role-playing game with my nerdy cousins. One of them was autistic. They're really smart, by the way. They're totally smart, bro. They got some of these high IQ genetics. But, we were playing the Star Wars role-playing game, and it's like, it takes like an hour and a half to set up your character. And then my older cousin, who's really badass, and I'm pretty sure he works maybe for like the CIA now or some shit. He was a Mormon, and he was a Marine. I think he works in some sort of intelligence now. I haven't talked to him in years. But he was older, and I was maybe like 9, and then my other cousins were like 10 and 8. And we were playing the Star Wars role-playing game, and at the very beginning, one of those like droid things invades your base. And you gotta roll dice and fight this droid. And if you lose, then the story starts out, your base is destroyed, and you have to go on some whatever mission to escape. And if you beat it, then the story starts, and you're in your base. And it's like, that's the difference between not taking the bait early on. Like, you know, ideally, you would get red-pilled or woke or whatever, and you wouldn't spurk out on Facebook, and you wouldn't get ganged up on by all your normie friends. That's the version of Star Wars role-playing game where you beat the droid and it didn't blow up your base. I lost to the droid, and my base blew up in flames, and I lost everything, and I lost everyone. But guess what, bro? That's not the end of the game. that's not the end of the story. And someday, when the story's over, you'll be like, man, I'm almost glad that my base burst into flames. I think it's kind of cool that the story started out that way. So, that's what I got for you guys, man. You know, we're 25 minutes deep, and I just needed to make another video. So, NPCs are going to have an easier time. By the way, NPC is kind of a negative term. You know, normies, well-adjusted. At best, well-adjusted, moderate, normie, kind of mean and derogatory NPC. Ultimately, guys, like, low-key, we're the chosen ones, okay? We're the beautiful ones. We're the ones who stood back and looked at this rat maze and said, this isn't right. Like, what we're living in, this isn't natural. This isn't right. Something's going on. And there's consequences, but there will also be rewards. And right now, the reward is like your real one. Fist bump. All right, God bless. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.